Colleagues and friends on the dais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. 3 বছর কিভ আসতে পারিনি, আপনাদের সঙ্গে দেখা করতে পারিনি, তাই অনেক কষ্ট হয়েছে। মমতা দি, আপনাকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ। আবার আমাকে নিমন্ত্রণ করলেন এখানে আবার আসার সুযোগ দেবার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ কলকাতা আবার ভালোবেসে ডাকার জন্য। কলকাতা আমার বাড়ির মতো। আপনাদের জামাইবাবু জীবনভর আপনাদেরই জামাই থাকবে। A great joy for me to be here after 3 long years at the inauguration of yet another edition of Kolkata's prestigious International Film Festival. The festival, ladies and gentlemen, has always celebrated the inclusive spirit of cinema beyond the confines of what Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore called narrow domestic walls. I salute you, Kolkata, for giving me my first job. I salute you, Kolkata, for giving Jaya her first film in Mahanagar, directed by Satyajit Ray. But most of all, I salute you for your artistic temperament that embraces the essence of plurality and equality. This is what makes Bengal so special. আপনারা সবাই ভালো থাকুন, সুস্থ থাকুন, এই আমার আন্তরিক মনোকামনা। The pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, has indeed been ruthless, a gruesome situation we were unprepared to face. There was a sudden change in the status quo that altered the very dynamics of global economics, be it in the functioning of business or our film industry. So today we wonder what is in store for us in the future. Given all possible precautions, we can take heart from a checkered past in which, despite pestilence, wars, changing social dogmas and political turmoil, film industries all over the world have always propagated courage and faced every challenge head-on. Man, ladies and gentlemen, has always been a social animal, and the need to belong to a community and participate in a group of activities is a primal human need. Long before the advent of cinema, people turned to various forms of collective activity for entertainment, mainly centered around religious ceremonies and folk expressions. Be it the temple dances from South India and Manipur that gave birth to some of our major classical dance forms, or the North Indian tradition of the Ram Leela and the Ras Leela that married mythology and theatre in their most accessible formats. The tradition of kirtans and qawwalis were born at a place of worship, like temples and dargahs, to give communities a sense of companionship and solidarity. Compared to these age-old practices, cinema is a relatively newer phenomenon. Our first silent film, Raja Harishchandra, opened in the Olympia Theatre, Bombay, on the 21st of April, 1913, merely a few years before the dual setbacks of the First World War and the advent of the dreaded Spanish flu. Earlier, the Russian flu, often described as the first modern influenza pandemic, erupted between 1889 and 1892 and is believed to have killed more than 1 million people as another pandemic ravaged the world. One of his later films, Ganashatru in 1990, can be taken as an indication of how Ray may have reacted to current times. In this chamber drama about a jaundice epidemic caused by water contamination that is suppressed by both the state and the local temple, Dr. Ashok Gupta becomes an enemy of the people fighting for justice. Most of Mrinalda's early films were more overtly political, always championing the cause of the rebels, the downtrodden, and the oppressed. His later films, however, touched upon the personal challenges of loneliness, as essayed by the protagonist Jamini in Khandar in the year 1984. Akaler Shondhone, 1980s, views the horrors of the 1943 famine through the lens of a facetious and impersonal film crew, shooting a story in 1980 about the catastrophe and suddenly becoming face to face with hunger and deprivation in real life. The amalgamation of political turmoil and personal tragedy was a constant leitmotif in Mrinalda's oeuvre that makes his work so unique and relevant. Ritwik Ghatak, another of Bengal's celebrated filmmakers whose centenary is also approaching in the year 2025, unapologetically celebrated feminism and depicted ruthless social realities born out of the partition in his cinema. Within his relatively short filmography, what stands out for its poignancy and lyricism is the Partition trilogy led by Meghe Dhakatara in 1960, followed by Komal Gandhar in 1961 and Subarn Rekha in 1965. Filmmaking was purely an art form for Ritwik Ghatak, through which he expressed his anger and despair at the sufferings of the people. We, the film fraternity, would do well to remember these stalwarts and their artistic convictions as the entertainment industry all over the world goes through a radical change. The earlier environment of movie business concentrated in the hands of a few studios is falling apart. It is impossible to know whether the opportunity to garner new home viewing audiences during the current crisis will be short-lived or whether it will keep growing in time. But I suspect it will be more demanding. That the hunger for entertainment will drive viewers to new releases online whenever they show up, and that studios will begin calculating their online streaming drop dates with the same care that they devote to their theatrical release calendars. The big question, of course, is whether studios will be able to sustain the big-ticket theatrical first model. It is not impossible to imagine theatrical releases being transformed into special events to strictly limited runs of a week or a month that will coexist with or briefly precede streaming releases. Certainly in doing so, the studios would have to restructure their revenue models. We cannot take our audiences for granted. Today, viewers are not only exposed to a range of international content, but also have the option to watch this content in a variety of formats, ranging from the traditional big screen to their personal tabs and mobile phones. Big decisions have to be made that will determine the future of entertainment. I suspect there will have to be artistic rethinking, and bold and imaginative ideas will bring new joy and faith to humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, let us discover more of that which is impossible and then do it. Let us find new summits to conquer. Let us bring down the barriers that have blinded our view of the horizons. Let us craft a singularity out of the many truths that come our way. Let us build a landmark for today, and let us make a new history for tomorrow. Let us demolish the differences that divide us. Let us build a monolith with our diversity. May no one be in the shadows of our glory. May everyone feel the joy. Way back in 1912, atop a ship across the Red Sea carrying him to Glasgow, Gurudev Rabindranath had written these immortal lines that should inspire us all in the darkest hours, offering us courage to seek a new tomorrow. আরো আলো আরো আলো এই নয়নে প্রভু ঢালো সুরে সুরে বিনাশী পুরে তুমি আরো 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 দাও তান প্রাণ ভরিয়ে তৃষা হরিয়ে মোরে আরো 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 দাও প্রাণ Pour more light into these eyes, O Lord. Pour more music into my flute. Fill my heart to the brim. Quench my thirst. Give me more reason to rejoice and live. Thank you.